I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do ya? But it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
She doesn't really look old enough. She kind of looks like she just graduated from high school to me. No, I'm just teasing you. But she uses evidence-based treatment to improve people's emotional, psychological, sexual, and spiritual well-being and experience. Her specialties include women's sexuality, desire discrepancies in couples, intimacy enhancement, problematic sexual behavior, the intersection of faith and sexuality, improving body image, couples therapy, and eating disorder treatment. She has appeared on local television, published articles for local and national media outlets, and given community presentations on topics such as healthy sexual development for youth, sexuality and the single life, improving body image, and increasing media literacy. We're privileged to have her here with us today to speak about sexual well-being, so please welcome Kristin.
Is that okay if I take this down? Hello. Hi. I see you guys too. All right, thank you for that intro. I am so happy to be here. I was telling Angie some things going on, and I was getting ready for this, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of I am just so glad that she asked me to do this. I have some things that I like to go over. To me, this topic is an issue that is dear to my heart, and it really is it's a social justice issue for me. And so I hope that I'll be able to go over some of that, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. Angie, about how much time do you think? Okay, cool. And I'm really interactive, so if you guys just want to save them to the end, that's fine, or if you have questions we'll just roll with it. Okay. All right, Angie kind of gave a really thorough intro, but like she said, I'm a licensed mental health therapist working in Orem, Utah full-time with a whole bunch of couples and a whole lot of singles and everything in between, there is now. It's kind of a thing. Okay. Certified sex therapist. I don't know if you guys are familiar with ASECT. I'm certified through ASECT, which is, they put you through this whole rigorous thing that is a nightmare, and I got through it and I'm done, and so I want to own it. Like I said, these types of topics are an issue of social justice for me, and so I firmly believe that if people are talking about sexuality, they darn well better have the training, otherwise it can cause a lot of damage, and so we'll get to that. That's my business, and then because I'm a glutton for punishment, I just barely started a PhD program in human sexuality, which talks a lot about sexual orientation and gender identity in the United States. So it's an adventure. So the plan today, so this is a topic I could probably talk about all day, and so I tried to boil it down to just a few nuggets. I'll spend just a little bit of time on two main barriers that I just kind of felt like talking about the most today, and then the majority of the time I want to talk about what cultivating sexual well-being looks like. I'm going to be positive, because there's some good stuff. And then I'll just offer some resources that I like. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, so some barriers. Be thinking, what comes to mind for you when you think of barriers to thriving, sexual well-being. Anyone have any ideas? Shame. Oh, yeah, it's a bugger. Bully. Any other ideas? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Medical. Biology. Absolutely. Biology matters. It's a thing. Okay. And the next slide, it just made me remember, I usually like to go over just kind of a little bit of a heads up. The next slide is, anyone know what purity culture is? Yeah? This next slide might be a wee bit triggering, I hope not, but if it is, I completely respect if anyone needs to take a breath and go outside. For a lot of you, it won't be. It'll be like, whoa, that's interesting, and oh, I get it, or ooh, no, you make me mad. Any of your responses are totally appropriate, and I welcome them. So I wanted to just kind of let this roll, and then we'll talk about it for just a second. Things that get in the way of developing sexual well-being. Do some of these look familiar to you? Yeah? Who just go. Who wants to venture to qualify what is purity culture to you? Yeah. That you only do with the person you love the most. Yes. A little confusing. Yeah. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, but yeah. Can be, but you know what? This is not just in Utah or Mormonism, or this is pervasive in our culture, in the United States. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yep, it's there. Anyone else? That a person's worth is attached to their sex history. Only. That's what I would say it is. Amongst all those. Yeah? It's a barrier, in my opinion. This next one, I stole that. Who knows Natasha Helfer-Barker? I forgot to ask her if I could steal her nun picture, so this is me taking ownership. I stole it. Oh, shoot. Come back. Sorry. Don't cheat. Okay. The second barrier, and then we'll move on to some positive things, is outsourcing one's own personal moral authority. Anyone have any thoughts on this, or what that looks like? Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. It's complicated. Yeah. Oh, so outsourcing one's... Oh, I'm sorry. Say it one more time. Yeah. And then I'll repeat it. There you go.
I think that if you're outsourcing your moral authority, that someone else is in charge, an authoritarian is in charge of your body. You look to them for what you can do with your own body. Is that what I said?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You know, it gets complicated. This is a complicated topic, and that doesn't mean that, because I think questions of adolescents and youth and children kind of come up with this, well, what am I going to tell my kids? It gets way more complicated than, and obviously that is I would have some different things to say, maybe more complex to say. When we're talking about development and developing sexual well-being, there's a cultivation going on over the years of learning to trust in oneself, trust in their own inner messages of what's okay with them and what is not, and standing by that, and that is okay, and that your opinion matters just as much as someone that you may be with, and we can talk about that. When there's a pervasive feeling that at the end of the day someone else is going to tell you what's okay or not, that can really be a barrier to developing sexual well-being. Absolutely. Okay. So because I am a social worker by trade, I was hounded into the micro, meso, and macro effects of lots of things. So we're going to talk a little bit about in the individual, family, and community in 15 minutes. But so kind of on a micro level, what comes to mind if you can just kind of spout out some healthy, what would be included in a healthy sexual experience? Like what feelings would be there? Consent. I love that word. Yeah. Pleasure. Weird. Yes. Huh? Safety. Absolutely. Okay. Consensual, non-exploitive, protective against the things that really can happen in pregnancy. Shared values and honesty. This comes from a list made by Michael Vigorito and Doug Braun Harvey. They have really done a fabulous job of constructing a treatment model for those experiencing perceived problematic sexual behavior. So I just really liked how they conceptualized what a healthy sexual experience should include. I can't give a presentation on sexual well-being without talking about consent. Enthusiastic about gearing up for enthusiasm. It's okay if it's not like, yes, I would love to play with you tonight. It could be like, I can be open to that. We'll see. We could be enthusiastic about the relationship, enthusiastic on your own darn terms. We'll get to some components of relationships. So I'm going to push pause on that one. But enthusiastic, participatory, you showing up? Are both showing up or wanting to, open to? What is said, what is shown. This one right here, what is said and what is shown, is one of the things that falls in this whole thing is about social justice to me. But I don't work a ton with adolescents anymore. I used to a lot more when I did more eating disorder treatment. But I started seeing, I started being the one place that adolescent girls would say something happened. And they, of course, because that's the way society goes, they had an overwhelming amount of guilt. And by no standard would I ever say what happened was consensual at all. And so we are not teaching our youth to pick up on even the smallest indications through body language that I'm not okay with what's happening, especially because there is still a lot of messages out there teaching young girls to take care of everyone else's feelings, make sure everyone else is okay. And if you put them in a situation, I don't want to get too far off, but if you put them in a situation that adults struggle migrating well, and they have to set boundaries and barriers and say, no, thank you, or if you do that again, I'm going to leave, or these types of things that we would just hope that these adolescents or young ones know how to deal with, they're completely ill-equipped. And so to me, it is absolutely a matter of social justice to be talking about consent, what it looks like, what it does not look like, negotiating, we'll get to those types of things. Okay, so body language and not coercive. Any thoughts on that? Anyone? I don't want to blow through these too quick. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, and checking in. So another thing that I started seeing a lot of when I started working a few years ago with, I think my practice is about 60 or 70% couples, is that this is not talked about in relationships, in long-term marriages, long-term relationships. The language is completely new. And so what's also interesting that I'm reading in a lot of research right now for what goes into sexual well-being is that there are a lot of researchers out there who do what I just did. They start becoming really concerned about the youth. And so they're researching what is healthy to teach youth. And they're starting to go, why aren't we talking like this about adults? Like these are components for how to live life. Like these are components of how to thrive in life. Let's respect people. Let's make sure what's going on is cool with what everyone else is. Let's talk about what makes us different. Cool, this is what's different about me. This is what's different about you. Let's be nice. Like those types of things. So it's just really cool. There's a lot of really good research coming out for youth, and we need to include all of us in there too. Okay, so the next 2 slides are some tips for how to cultivate sexual well-being, and the sexiest word in the world is skill. You gotta build some skills. It's not sexy, I was kidding. But it is definitely a part of this whole process. So even if there are people in here who are not currently partnered, or if you are and it's been a long-term relationship, a lot of these components can be applicable across the board. Even if you're just starting to date on a first date, trying to cultivate this approach in how you interact with people can be really healthy and a different way that we see, different from what we see happen a lot, I think, still. Okay, one of the aspects I go over with all of my couples, because they're the ones who bring it up, is, okay, so I told you I work a lot with women. So you're going to hear me use that language. I do think that this happens for both. So I'm not that narrow, but it is still kind of true for the stereotype. So I try to help them understand that kicking duty out. We want the dutiful wife out. Like, that's not showing up. That's not participatory. That's not usually what a spouse wants to engage with. And acting out of love. So remember, go ahead. No. Not for most. Yeah. Right. Remember a couple slides ago when I talked about enthusiastic or open to being enthusiastic? It's this type of language that we start bringing in a little bit more. Like, I could be open to that, to the influence, being open to the influence of a partner. Or acting out of love. It might behaviorally look the same or but it won't feel the same, right? If it's open to someone's influence. I mean, we talk about this when we're negotiating what restaurant to go to on Friday night. Like, that's kind of a similar approach of, oh no, okay, you just whatever you want. Okay, whatever you want. Like, that's not really thriving in a sense of well-being. So separating loving, open to the influence, or acting out of love versus acting out of duty. Just a big difference. Context focused versus content focused. Why in our culture are we so fixated on content? Like, this happened, then this happened, so this has to mean this. Versus the context. Who in here is familiar with Emily Nagoski? No, you're about to be, because I love her. She is she's really big right now in sex education, and she wrote the book Come As You Are. It's about preach. So she wrote the book Come As You Are. It is groundbreaking for female sexuality. It's stock full of research, and she's funny. The audiobook is awesome. Anyway, she talks about how fundamentally in our core important context is, and so I do a lot of education with a lot of ladies, and we go through a lot of what is your favorite context to connect with your partner. Is it that you're texting throughout the day? Is it there's certain sheets or a certain hotel, or I don't know, whatever. Just pick your favorite context. And does your partner know that? We need to talk about that. And I have quite a few who I've been really humbled to learn that they've been in a long-term relationship for decades and they don't know their own favorite context, which is, I love that they're now talking about it. It's never too late to bring in some more healthy context, some more healthy vocabulary to show up more fully. What's going on to get you in the mood? Context. What helps you the most? Mm-hmm. And really, there are a variety of factors that make someone feel the way they need to in order to show up. And we're going to go over some more of those. This is brand new language for a lot of people, and so a lot will chew on this, and then it starts to show up in how you're kind of conceptualizing how this might affect and be impacting you in your life. Pleasure-oriented versus goal-oriented. And so a lot of people, when they are thinking about how they would qualify their intimate life, this is very connected to content. So did someone experience, we have kids in here? Are we good with words? Did someone experience orgasm? If they didn't, it was a failure. If there's medical things going on, it's a failure. So we need help. We have to do this. There's still a lot of belief in this world that if it doesn't fit this one criteria of what is acceptable, then something's wrong. And it's been really one of my most favorite things that I have experienced in my therapy sessions to see the options of what can be a very fulfilling, connecting, intimate experience with one's partner blow wide open. Because this thing is not an option because of X factor that's going on in our life. We'll look at all of these other things that we can bring into our relationship, and it takes out so much more stress and pressure, which is actually another bully to being able to connect really well. So pleasure-oriented, how can we share pleasure together? Fill in the blank. There's intimacy. There's a sexual experience that you can that can add to your quality of life. Any questions on that? Okay, anyone familiar with John Gottman? Yeah? He's got a lot of good research, and he says that, he's the one that wrote 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. I usually give it to suggest it to a lot of my couples just because he's really good at vocabulary, helps us get on the same page of naming behaviors that are toxic or helpful. So in his research, he said that he found that the top 3 aspects that really help people qualify their sex life or their relationship is really good is low stress, high trust, high affection. Okay, who in here just went, left? Okay, I'll go fast. This is a work in progress. All of this is a work in progress. So a lot of my couples that are meeting with me are in the throes of young ones at home. But I usually say, as long as this is we're trying to get low stress, at least sometimes, to be able to spend time together. High trust, are you going to show up for me? Do I know that you're there for me? Is that a component of our relationship? And high affection, whatever that looks like for a specific person, part of their relationship template. And then get real comfortable with being uncomfortable. Lots of times in therapy, we will go over the benefits of discomfort and what that can mean. Because I think a lot of us were raised thinking that if we feel that uncomfortable feeling, something's wrong. Get out of there. Get out, get out, get out. Well, that might be true if we're walking down a dark alley. That might be true if there's a lion over there in the corner. I hope I'm uncomfortable to get the heck out of there. But there are so many other reasons that discomfort can show up, and most of the time, it's because we're growing. We're expanding. We're developing. And so if we can, in our relationship or in our individual lives, accept and be able to discern which one is which, we can dive more in. We can become more resilient when discomfort shows up. And that is absolutely necessary if we're developing sexual well-being. Embrace curiosity. Be curious. I wonder what blah, blah, blah. I wonder what this would be like. We haven't talked about this. I wonder what this, just having that be a part of your relationship. And knowledge of an erotic template. My supervisor a few years ago, he said, an erotic template is as different as a fingerprint. Okay? So we need to embrace that our partner is not going to be the same as we are. That's okay. We're not supposed to be. That's like having the same expectations that we're supposed to like the exact same food, exact same quantity, and go at the exact same time, be hungry at the same time. What the heck? No, we're two different people. And I want to get to know you. I want to embrace our differences and love our similarities. And welcome and embrace and build the skill of negotiating. Okay, cool. This is what sounded good to me. What about this? How does this? Da-da-da-da. How can I help you? There's negotiation. It's healthy. Okay, the fuel to drive sexual well-being. This comes from Emily Nagoski, is self-compassion. It's actually from Kristin Neff. Has anyone seen that TED Talk? It's so good. I think it's from, I don't know, it's old. Well, the film looks old. She did her research on self-compassion. It is different than self-esteem. Self-esteem has a whole different discussion about self-esteem. Self-compassion has 3 components. And so if you are wanting to really feel like you are thriving in life, much less developing sexual well-being, develop the capacity for self-compassion. Kindness towards self, common humanity. We're all none of us are perfect. Everybody's working on stuff. We're all working on stuff. It's okay. And mindfulness, knowing what the heck is going on within you and for you. Being able to take care of yourself, self-care. That mindfulness has a lot of the personal moral authority to me, but it's also down to the biology, being able to take care of ourselves. It's from Kristin Neff, but Emily Nagoski talks about it in her book as well. So she cites Kristin Neff. And then Brene Brown, who knows her? She does such great work also on shame. So all of those can really help lean into more fully with what's going on in life. Okay, really, really fast. So what cultivates a sexually healthy environment? And then I want you to answer if Utah's doing well with this. Access to comprehensive sexuality information, access to sufficient health care, knowledge of safe sex practices, and an environment that is supportive of sexual health. We have some work to do, big time. But these types of things can be done in a home. They definitely can. We also have more work to do. Okay. And sexual well-being, these are the just 3 quotes that I really liked. The World Health Organization qualifies it as sexual health is a state of physical, emotional, mental, and social well-being in relation to sexuality, and not merely the absence of disease, dysfunction, or infirmity. Anyway. Okay. 2 researchers that I really like out of Australia, they say, well, they use the term sexual subjectivity. That's, right now, for lack of time, we're going to use them interchangeably. Is multidimensional, encompassing cognitive and emotional elements related to the sexual self. It refers to multiple aspects of sexual self-perceptions, including body esteem, perceptions of efficacy and entitlement to sexual desire, and pleasure and sexual self-reflection. They determined through their research that those who scored higher on, they call it sexual subjectivity or sexual well-being, also reported higher global, so their own overall well-being scored much higher. So we've got a correlation potentially going on there. And Emily Nagoski, she wrote, yes, you are normal. In fact, you're not just normal, you're amazing, beguiling, courageous, delectable, all the way down to yawping and zesty. Your body is beautiful and your desires are perfect, just as they are. The secret ingredient is you. And I think if we can embrace this, that we are great as we are, and we're also developing, we can also strive toward excellence, and in the same breath, we are perfect as we are today. That can, in my opinion, help us move so much more fully into a state of sexual well-being and overall human well-being, in my opinion. Those are resources that I like. Books, Come As You Are, like I said, Emily Nagoski, Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown, or anything by Brene Brown, I think helps. 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, John Gottman. For Goodness Sex is my favorite sex education, youngin', ways to talk to kids about sex. And Girls and Sex by Peggy Orenstein. She's got a lot of research, really good stuff. Sex Therapy and Education, we've got Utah Sex Therapy Association. ASECT also is international, but they have a directory. And then Mormon Mental Health Association has a lot of therapists who work really well with either faith transitions or or those that were raised in Mormonism. And Natasha Helfer Parker has her podcast of Mormon Sex Info that is really, she's got a lot of really good information there. I think that's all I have. Okay. Cool. Oh, me. Any questions? Did I bother anyone? Anyone mad? Yeah? Oh, yes, sir. There you go. Oh, thanks. That was a little rapid fire stuff. Go ahead. It's an issue of social justice for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about this actually this morning. People have asked me over the years, why are you going into sex therapy? Like, what are you doing? And I've kind of hum and hawed over the years, like, what brought me to where I'm at, and why in the world am I so passionate about healthy sexuality? And why do some things make me so livid that other people seem to be fine with? And it boils down to, it is an issue of social justice for me. I firmly believe that being dismissive about our sexual development in raising children, or even in just our own discussions and our self-concept, is harmful. And I think that there needs to be so much more access to accurate, comprehensive information, and remaining dismissive is harmful. Yeah. So you asked, did I answer that?
Yes, but I guess I just wonder, like if you feel like there are things that need to be changed, like obviously everything starts at home, starts with ourselves.
You bet.
Deliver that information to our children or people that
Mm-hmm.
we share a relationship with. But as it reaches out from there, do you get behind movements where you feel like it's like abstinence only is just not healthy, and you feel like there needs to be movement and effort towards those who have access to that kind of distribution of information?
Right.
Do you see it on a bigger
I do.
scale like that?
Yeah.
People are focused on what you see happening with individuals within their own homes and their own relationships, or do you see this as being a bigger social problem?
I think it's,
And the type of people we're educating in the schools, we're educating in those types of
we're not educating in the schools. There aren't. Right. But that is the sex yeah, you're right. You're right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, well, I definitely and I care deeply about all of them. We just had a Tribune op-ed come out yesterday, 4 of us. Did you see it? Good. Where it came to our attention that some schools are allowing Fight the New Drug come in and talking about porn, which is hands down sex education. And most of the research that they cite, if not all of it, is false. And so it's really concerning to a group of us that are saying, if we're not even allowing moderately comprehensive sex education, what in the world are you doing letting non-trained people come in for an assembly, right? So we're trying to help get a lot of people to go talk to their schools, make sure that things are going through the proper channels, because I can't even go in and teach something, much less like with credentials, you know what I mean? And so that's really concerning to all of us. So, and then to answer your question too, things that we can do on our own time is watching our language. How much are we, you remember that slide about purity culture? How much of that language is still going on in your own homes? Reframing statements that kids might be making, like, ooh, let's not, nobody's worth is attached to their sex history. Like their worth as a person, their lovability as a person. I very much so reject that ideology, absolutely. Oh, sorry, whoa. I don't know who was next.
So I was just going to ask a question about, like, identifying your personal sexuality and then the way that you share that with your partner, and, like, what is that? I guess how is that different for you to have your own and then to share it with your partner?
I think my best, quickest way to answer that is to share one of the homework assignments I give some of my couples, is to trade off date nights, where one is mostly initiating, saying what they're going to do. They're basically teaching the other person what their ideal is, and that kind of gets, and then trade off the next weekend or something, the other person, and that can really be extremely scary for someone who's maybe not been initiating ever. You know, and so, but that will get kind, gentle communication about what's showing up, what's making you uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, that's okay. Like, okay, this is just where we're at right now. We can keep talking about this, you know? And so just getting more familiar with your own preferences, like knowing that you have to plan Friday, that's immediately going to get, well, what do I want? I don't know what I'm going to do, you know? I don't know, Netflix. So, you know, which is fine. Maybe that's someone's template. Did that kind of answer? Just kind of a way to, yeah, okay, cool. And I think you've had your hand up a little bit. I would need 4 more hours to talk. Just kidding. Gosh. Anything you can do to try not to be dismissive and welcoming of questions, but also realistic, you know, that you know, what, and depending on the age too. So there are different developmental times, you know, and so what I have such a hard time with, and I think I'm hearing that we're probably going to feel similarly to this, is just how, and you can go read the Trib comments already. Like, people are already swinging to, okay, well, fine, we're just going to show them everything and just say, go watch it, have at it. And that is absolutely not at all what we are suggesting. Pornography is the #1 sex educator in America. I have a huge issue with that. I think that is problematic on every level. Without education and without comprehensive education, it will continue to be. I don't care how many restrictions and public health crisis announcements they have, like, it's just gonna, it's here to stay. And so we need to equip children to know how to migrate these things. And so that's where I would take that discussion. But how to do it, I would need so much more time. Sorry, I hope that's sufficient for now. Yeah, For Goodness Sakes, Al Vernacchio. And he has a really funny TED Talk, if you want just like a 20-minute blurb. He's got some good ideas. Go ahead.
I'm just curious about this. And so, when my wife really has read a couple of things along that.
Sorry, he's what?
I read together for part.
Okay, yeah.
Well, anyway, he seems to be a social work counselor. He seems like he's really, really been beneficial.
Good.
One thing I thought was interesting when I was reading the books is that he had trouble applying this in his own life. He ended up getting divorced. It's like they weren't able to take what they were learning and that they were teaching people and apply it in their life. I was just wondering, in your observation of counselors overall, have you ever seen people not being able to practice what they preach, sort of? I mean, that's not counseling.
It's really hard to offend me. Well, no, it's not. Go read the Trib things. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. No, I'm not offended at all. I think that that's a really important dialogue to have, because I think that a lot of, especially my colleagues, like one of the things that I see is we have this kind of pressure to have it all together all the time. Otherwise, it's going to invalidate like our opinions. And I've really grappled with that over the years, you know, because I know more than anyone how much I'm still developing and still learning and growing. And so I like that you brought that up, because that's something I would like to talk about more. You know, that just because we're currently still working on things, which I don't know anyone, if they are telling you that they've got it all together, they are lying. That's common humanity, remember that? You know, but we still have a voice, and we still have accurate, good, useful information to have. And so I welcome that question a lot. And yes, to answer your question, yes, I do see it a lot, that people are having trouble applying in their own lives. You know, like, and 1 minute. Yeah. For example, learning how to negotiate consent, super cool on paper. In the moment, super stressful and scary for people, even in long-term relationships. And so embrace the discomfort. Embrace the awkward. Everybody's awkward sometimes, some people more than others. That's cool. Yeah, common humanity. Cool, thank you. Yeah. Purity culture. Kinda. We're all recovering from patriarchy, I think, and we've been doing it for a few hundred years in our culture, right? But I am in one of my classes going through some pretty thorough like history, and there are some cultures, especially before Miss Victoria took over England, you know, where it was much more. It is what it is. This is a body, and this is what it can do, and which I was surprised to find. And so I'm much more, because of where I work and what I do and where I live and who I am, I'm more familiar with post-Queen Victoria and era and Puritanism and everything that we're still dealing with here. So I'm less familiar with Indonesia and all the other areas of the world. I name Indonesia because I have a professor who's living there right now. And he has told some stories that are much more sex positive, you know, not dismissive, not hegemonically controlling to control the masses or something. I didn't really answer that very clearly, but yeah, there are some, not as much. Thank you.
Something always brings me back to you. It never takes too long. No matter what I say or do, I'll still feel you here till the moment I'm gone.